Morning, ladies. Those have joined already. And Nikita's joining us now as well. Jessica's here. Nobody going to the beach this morning. Doesn't look like it. It's a beautiful day. Oh, or you maybe went to the beach yesterday. Those who weren't here. I'm manually just taking attendance as you guys join. Um, and then I'm gonna already get us to that page that we want to be on. And that is for the start of this, or continuation. For those who went with us yesterday, um, the, the chapter we on at the moment deals with designing and developing a new service. In other words, and we identified yesterday that there's a number of reasons why service providers decide to add new services. It could be that there's a new innovation that they have stumbled across, or a bright spark in the company had, and they want to obviously incorporate that into the services that they offer too. Maybe there's, as a result of changing technology, they have to change some of their processes in how they deliver their service. Maybe they want to add or differentiate or add an additional service that they offer. The long and the short of it is, it's quite simple, as we said yesterday at the start. If you are developing a new product, you can manufacture the product. You can have a sample that somebody can actually touch, see how it operates. It makes it a bit easier. It is far more challenging if you are developing a new service that you're adding to, as a service provider, to the bouquet of services that you offer already, because you need to be really rather creative to ensure that it's successful. And therefore, and that's where we stopped off yesterday, or finished yesterday, is we got to the point where um, we can identify phases that form part of a new service development. And obviously, as we said yesterday, if you want to be successful, you need to have a number of ideas. You need to generate a lot of ideas, and we'll have a look at now at the different methods that is used to generate these new ideas. Because the ideas itself is actually going to is actually going to act as a launching pad, because it sets the objectives of what you want to achieve. The idea evaluation, which I think is totally intertwined with the idea generation phase. It has to happen continuously as new ideas are generated, they are tested and they evaluated. And no, it's not a good idea. It's not going to work. And the next one pops up. And so it's a continuous process. And that's why these two phases are very much intertwined, because in any business, the organization's strategy is the one that gives direction to where we want to go in our market. Do we want to penetrate a new market? Do we want to diversify our business? Do we want to differentiate ourselves from our competitors offering the same service but in a different way? And all of these, well, whatever strategy your business have decided or organization has decided to take, is also, although it gives you general overall direction for the business, is also going to provide you with direction for what your service strategy for the new service that you are developing is going to be. In other words, it requires you to look at criteria like the markets that you're going to be offering it to. Is it a market, or is it markets? Is it more than one market segment, for instance? What type of service are you at? Are you, as a service provider, adding new services to what you're offering, or are you just improving on the ones that you already have? And what sort of time frames are we looking at to roll out the new service? In summary, two very identifiable changes or phases, my apology, in the development of a new service. Let me just get Kia on board as well. Welcome, Kia. We're busy with the phases of developing a new service. Now, as we said, the first phase would be the generating ideas, as many as you can, obviously. If you have two ideas, one of them might be a good idea. If you have 10 ideas, obviously the chances are it just increases of you having more good ideas that you can consider. Brainstorming is a very popular method to use, and often it happens in general conversation. Maybe it's during a weekly staff meeting. All of a sudden, and ideas are put on the table, and very often these ideas. And I think I might have shared in a previous during a previous chapter with you my experiences that I had in London when I was working there with the health and fitness center that was closed every first Monday of the month. So we could actually act on the complaints the customers have in the sense of developing new ideas on how we can improve our service. And this is pretty much brainstorming that happened within a particular department of a business and then also in general. What I quite enjoyed on a day like that was that the brainstorming was not limited just to the department that you were working in. For instance, it's not just all the finance guys getting together and brainstorming where we can improve our delivery regarding maybe invoicing and how we manage our bad debt and stuff like that. It was everybody participating in all different spheres of the business. It gives you a better idea of the total or overall picture of what the business is offering, which is sometimes puts a lot of things into context for staff members who maybe the chef is just in the kitchen the whole time and it's hot and it's steamy and customers are complaining, whatever. And it is a bit of a minefield working in a chef's kitchen. But if you're isolated to that whole and you do not see the bigger picture because you're not exposed to the bigger picture, it makes it more difficult. I realized that one of the most important tools that you can use, or platforms that you can use to generate new ideas, is to ask your employees. They are the people who are dealing with, as we've identified in the previous chapter, as your front office, or they involved in the front office activities of a service provider of the business. So they have a direct contact the whole time with the customers, and therefore they can add great value, and definitely would have more creative ideas of solving a problem that they are confronted with on a daily basis. So start with the people that you have in your business. Ask them where we can improve and what new ideas, because they're rather creative if given an opportunity. Proper research, especially if it's a new innovative idea and we have no information to compare it to because no such service exists and we are now going to be pioneering it basically, then sufficient research is required. But then also, if it is a existing service that we just want to offer in a more efficient way, then it is extremely valuable to use the to access the feedback that your consumers or the users of your service is providing you with, because the solutions are basically right in front of you. So offer the opportunities to the customers to open up and share their quality or how they experience your service quality, and as a result of that, you're getting extremely valuable information. However, if you don't act on that information, it's also of no value. It's also not a bad idea to formally analyze what your competitors are doing, and find. You'll probably find that often a solution is to maybe form a strategic alliance. Maybe it's not necessary for you to go into developing a new service in its entirety. If maybe you can link up with a strategic partner, for instance, and it is definitely valuable exercise to create new ideas as well. Very often, it helps if you speak to people in similar positions as you at different companies, including your competitors, because they're always not going to say the secrets of the trade, but it's very nice to be able to have as part of your network somebody that you can actually bounce ideas off. You're not going to steal the ideas, and they're not going to give their good ideas to you anyway. Um, it could also be that supplemental position processing of services is an option of creating new ideas. It's where basically the example I used in the textbook, for instance, is the person using a businessman using the chauffeur services to transport him. It immediately frees up some of his time and allows him to relax where he would have been stuck in traffic and had to concentrate the whole time. It just gives you an opportunity to think and spend time to creative time, so to speak. And then, when we have or get to the point where we have to have an idea, that we have a concept that we want to pursue, it is important that we formulate some guidelines that we can should follow. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is to decide what specifically this new idea is that we want to deliver to the customers, what specific market we want to target, how we actually are going to tell the market that there's a new service that we offer. And we also need to know the skills level as and the amount of resources we're going to require for us to be able to deliver it. There's no point you have a fantastic idea. It's a great concept. You know it's going to kill the market, but our staff is not skilled sufficiently, and if they are, they're probably not part of the whole process. So training also is an extremely important aspect of that contribute towards the success of the development of a new service. Right. When as part of our first phase of generating ideas, and now conceptualizing that idea, in other words, putting it into a bit of more structure. It's not just that sounds like a great idea and we move on. No, we've decided that is a great idea, and it actually can add value to the business and increase our profits. So let's conceptualize it. Let's actually put pen to paper, so to speak. And the when you conceptualize a new idea, you also need to ensure that exactly the operational component of that, how it's going to work. In other words, who do we need to get involved? In what particular geographical area are we going to roll it out? Are we going to try this new idea only in the Western Cape and later maybe branch it off into the Eastern Cape and other provinces if we see it is successful? How's the scheduling going to work? How many days, how many hours do we need to put in to offer this additional service? Facilities layout. We'll see later on in the chapter. There's when we get to the blueprinting component of the whole development process. We'll go into greater detail of design, facilities design specifically, and layout, because there's no point in pursuing this new idea that has been conceptualized if it's going to require almost an entire makeover of your business. Then at the end of the day, it might not be cost effective. You also have to, like I said previously, make sure that your current staff, or as they call it, the human resources of your business, if they are sufficient? In other words, are they enough? Would you require additional people, or have to employ additional people to be able to offer this service? How many do you need to? On what level of skill do they need to be? Or is it a situation where your current staff would be fine to do it? They just have to be trained in how to do it correctly. It's a constant. There's no right and wrong answer here. It depends on the type of business, the nature of the particular service that you're offering. Um, if you are all of a sudden going to, let's say, for instance, the example we took yesterday of you booking a session at the hairdresser. But in the meantime, the salon that you've always visited decided that they are going to now also offer with all visits, they're going to offer you, they're going to wash your hair and shampoo your hair, they're going to cut your hair the way you want it, and then to finish everything off, while you're having a cup of coffee, they're going to give you a proper head massage or head and shoulder massage. That's a fantastic idea, and you walk out of there completely refreshed and revived. However, are they, is it cost effective for that additional service that you're offering for free as an extra to the customers? Um, how many people do you need to employ that are skilled to do that? Because I mean, it's not everybody that can do a proper head and shoulder massage. It needs to be somebody with at least a minimum level of skill, and sometimes even training. So these are all things that you have to consider. Maybe some of the existing staff can just be upskilled and trained to do it because they in that particular industry already. But these are the list as you start pursuing the new idea and you start conceptualizing it and you're getting to the operations, in other words, the nuts and bolts, how it's actually going to work. Because it's way beyond now just having the nice idea. The list goes on and on. And as I said, we are just highlighting some of the most important ones. But as you start evaluating what might work or what might not work, you realize that it's actually quite an exercise. Let's look at the case study, for instance. A case study, a short one, on South African Airways. It goes back a number of years where South African Airways will become the first domestic airline to common use self-service kiosks, allowing passengers flying with in the airline or with South African Airways to check in, choose their seats, print their own boarding passes quickly and easily without the need to queue at a conventional check-in desk. I know that, I mean, that this is practice nowadays, but a number of years it wasn't. You have to be at the airport even earlier to go through the whole process because everybody flying on a plane was standing in the check-in at the check-in desk. So yes, it's a great idea, and yeah, it has been very successful. But if we look at the questions that is posed, if we develop a service operations concept for South African service, we have to develop a service operations concept for them. In other words, we go back to the previous. Remember, the idea is self-service desks. Go back to the previous slide. Those are the service operation concepts that we have to now develop for the self-service kiosks. What's the nature of the service? The nature of the service is that we are offering an additional service where customers can now, at the time that's convenient for them, check in. In other words, their luggage, the whole lot, boarding pass printed, stuff like that. They don't have to queue. It's a self-service desk. But I tell you what, if you've never done it, I can remember the first time I did the self check-in because even that was actually the first time I flew overseas, and I'm talking about post 90s. That's because when I worked in the UK, this wasn't not even close to being an idea. But the first time I can remember from the early 2000s when these self check-in kiosks were available, I was quite frightened. I still actually wanted to queue because at least then I know my stuff's going to be is going to be in order because there's an employee who knows what they are doing and they are doing it for me. So basically, as part of the whole process, and that comes down to number 5, the human resources required and the skills level, you had to have somebody from SAA, employed by SAA, to actually be at the self-service desk initially to help people. You can't just leave them on their own, because I mean, then they're going to mess up, and then maybe not even get to the point where they can print a boarding pass for themselves. So you have to educate people, and yes, that just brings us back to the point of the skills level of your resources. And is it, in other words, wise to take somebody from your existing check-in desks where people are queuing, to put them at the self-service kiosks? Aren't you then splitting your resources? Where would you put these? You can't just put them in a mall, because then you will have to have somebody manning what is supposed to be a self-service kiosk all the time, so they can just help the customers when they are there. Over time, it has actually improved to the level where the self-service desk is the menu is very user-friendly, so it's quite simple for you to actually use it. It's like taking a 90-year-old person to an ATM for the first time, where their entire life they've actually gone inside the bank to withdraw money. It's something they're unfamiliar with, but the more you do it, obviously, the more confident you become with in using that service. And now I don't even. I book my meals, I book my seats, I book everything, even days before I board my flight. So it's the whole process. The fact that you can actually download it onto your phone. I mean, so you don't even have to print the boarding pass. It's a vast improvement of what it was. But that's just giving you an idea of your service operations concept that we had on our previous slide. How that applies to this particular case study. If you go to the second question, what are the consumers' benefits from the service? It's quite clear. It's saving them time for queuing, because how many of us do enjoy queuing? Because I mean, I don't know of anybody who says, you know what, give me a queue. I'm actually going to queue. I'm going to queue to be in a queue. I just love being in a queue. Nobody loves being in a queue. I mean, you want to be the only one there. I mean, it's unrealistic. But if you see how some people behave in public, when they have to queue as if they were the only customer, that's sort of doing their shopping now. The fact is, people don't enjoy queuing. But queuing, unfortunately, at some point is required. Maybe once this particular activity has rolled out for the first time, they realize that not many people are now actually queuing in the check-in desk, but they have problems when people have to board, because now there's more people queuing there earlier or frequently, because they've already checked in. They don't have to queue twice, so to speak. So I think you get the idea. Is anybody you all okay with this? Are you understand the process that we have to go through, the process we are going through, the service operations concept, which applies to this particular case study? Everybody fine with that? And just let me know.
Yes, sir.
All good?
All good.
Where would you install these self-service desks? We all know where they are now, but I mean, is there any other place that you can add to that you say, you know what, it would be quite nice if it's there? How would you limit it to the airport? Would you actually have all your self-service check-in desks in the airport building, but just a different venue, so people can actually all have a number of kiosks, so obviously people don't have to queue again, because you can also queue at a self-service desk. Where would you put up these kiosks? Are you going to limit them to the airport? What would you say? Anybody?
Well, sir, I think it would be nice if it's not limited to the airports. Much easier.
I think you're right. I think it depends on the nature of, if we go back to the previous one, the nature of the service, The nature of the service will, to a large extent, determine this. I think if you have more um, off-site sort of self-service kiosks, like for instance, not just limited to the airport building itself, but maybe in shopping malls. It can work, but it would require, I think, proper planning and a lot of staff. I think that with previous examples I've used, we know that SAA have sufficient staff employed who can be utilized more efficiently. It is going to be challenging. If I can compare this to maybe another example, for instance, for many, many years, if you wanted to buy tickets for a show or even a movie or maybe a sport event, CompuTicket was the place to go. They were the only ones dealing with this. Nowadays, it's slightly different. I know that the last few times that I went to a cricket at Newlands, I bought my tickets online. I chose my seat online, and I was then given an opportunity to collect my tickets from a venue that's closest to me. It could be a Pick and Pay, it could be a Postnet, it could be a Checkers, wherever. And it was as simple as that. You have a reference number, it's sent to your phone, you take your phone along, you show it to the person behind the Postnet desk. They print the tickets. It's not printed yet. It's not waiting for you there in the envelope. Once you've once you're there to collect it, they print it. It takes 5 minutes and you're out of there. That can work. That's something totally different. Because there's no luggage that you need to check in that's going with. So I think at the end of the day, in this particular case, I would say at more different locations within the airport building would be where I would limit the self-service kiosks to, and not off the premises or off the location. But again, maybe this offers an opportunity for somebody in this industry to come up with an innovative idea of how it can be done cost effectively outside the airport building. Right. The implementation of the service concept would require, firstly, a development, sort of a prototype, and obviously that is always a good idea to have sort of a prototype that you could pilot test, so to speak, and obviously it would be a good idea to test this service maybe among a certain selected group of your customers, or maybe try it on everybody and try it for the week and see and ask them for feedback. Let's say, for instance, if we return to the example of the hairdresser, maybe give everybody, even if it's if you're just there for a quick haircut and nothing fancy. My wife's got short hair as well, and I know that for her a visit to the hair salon is a revival session, but maintenance wise with her hair, there's no perms and all kinds of all kinds of services that she would use at a hair salon. However, it's different to everybody. But let's say, for instance, regardless of what you choose, and if it's a huge exercise or if it's just a quick cut or a trim or whatever, everybody gets a free head and shoulder massage. And then at the end of the week, obviously, it would be good to, or the end of the session, get feedback, give the customers an opportunity, because obviously you would have them on your database. Send a WhatsApp out and say, listen, rate our service. Was it great? Did you enjoy it or not? And that's how you sort of test it before you start commercializing it and say, all right, this is now part of the new service that we're going to offer. Maybe test the idea among them to say, listen, your normal 350 Rand cut would now be 375, but then you get a free head and shoulder massage included as well. I mean, and those are the things that you can test and that you should test before before commercializing everything. And the 4 steps, I think we have not specifically dealt with everyone in particular individually, but we've covered all 4 of those steps that you need to follow. Let's go to the next section of the chapter, which deals specifically with the building of your service architecture. And here it basically says that you need to have 2 very important components when you are developing a new service. There must be a service blueprint. In other words, you can't just talk about the idea and like I said yesterday, just use words and to describe the new service. We have to put it into visuals. We have to have some graphics on it, especially if it's part of if you require your existing staff maybe to form part of the new service that you're offering. Your quality function deployment, we'll for the rest of the chapter be addressing these 2 components now. What is a blueprint? Blueprint, quite simply, and you can actually, there's an example of a blueprint on page 136 in your manuals, figure 5.1. That specific one is of a pet salon, and I've got an image of a different business up here as well, but we'll get to the different steps that form part of how the service blueprinting is done. It is, however, important at this point for us to say we need a roadmap. We've used the example of you going from Cape Town to Johannesburg, and you've got different choices. You can go by bus, you can go, you can catch a lift with a friend, you can actually drive there yourself. Let's just get Nikita on again. You guys battling with your internet stability? Are you experiencing some internet instability? Because I know that I was very, very frustrated last night. I had a lot of things I wanted to do and I couldn't do it because it was like, geez, reboot the router every 15 minutes, and that wasn't a great idea at all. It's not good for the router, and it's definitely not good for my mood. But anyway, when we lose signal, join again, I'll admit you, and we'll take a break in a couple of minutes time anyway. But to get back to the service blueprint, we need to visualize things. And as I said, on page 136, there's a nice visual of what a service blueprint looks like for a pet salon. I can't remember which one I've chosen for your image, but it's just to give you an idea of what it looks like and what it should, because it puts everything. People, you know what? I know that if I tell my son to do something, it's fine. If I actually draw a picture, it works better because then you'll remember the image. Fortunately, I have the gift of the gab that I'm not bad at sketching something. Maybe I'm just not good at expressing myself in words, or I'm better at using images. But we do see things clearer, especially if it's a process like developing and developing and implementing a new service that we want to add to our business. Then it's better to actually paint a picture. As they say, a picture paints 1,000 words. It basically is exactly that, yes. We have to simulate what the process delivery is actually going to look like. In other words, this is the new idea we have. It's a fantastic idea. How is it actually, if we put it into practice, how is it going to work? And it applies to both the front office workers as well as the back office workers. The people working on the computers, the people who don't see the customers, the people who's not confronted directly with the customers all the time. And then we've got our front office employees who are going to be in direct contact with the customers on a continuous basis. So we need to paint a picture for both of them so that people at the back can understand what's happening at the front. was still with my previous college, and I had somebody from our service provider, which provided our printers and our copiers and those machines. And this lady was phoning me like 5, 6, 7 times a day. And finally, and as it turned out, it was always, she either phoned me just before I started teaching a class, or was going into a meeting, or while I was in the meeting. So I did get the message, then I returned the call, then she's in the meeting, or she's not available, she's on the call, or she's on lunch, or whatever. So we kept on missing each other. And then finally, when we did speak, her first words out of her mouth was like, "You're a very hard person to get hold of. I've been leaving how many messages?" And I said, whoa, hang on. Let's not go straight into the attack mode. I am going to give you some very good advice now, and that is to, and I'm pretty sure we are not the only company you are doing business with. Where are your business located? Where are you phoning me from? No, she's actually in Johannesburg. I said, fantastic. So put yourself in the shoes with every customer that you deal. Try and find out what that particular business is about, what their operations are. Then you'll know, A, what is the best time to phone client A, client B, client C. So find out what their business, the nature of their business is. The reason why I didn't call you back is not because I didn't want to call you back, it's because you didn't phone at the right time. So it's important that we know. And she's obviously a back, she's actually obviously a back office employee, where the guy is actually servicing our machine, who's bringing the new toner and everything, and our paper, and servicing the machine on the premises. The guy delivered it. They are in direct contact with me and with our staff, and obviously they see and they know what the business and the nature of the business is. So there's not proper communication, because that technician who's actually on the premises did not give feedback to the back office employees as to the nature of our business. That's just an example of how important it is that we have a blueprint which can visually, graphically give us an idea of what happens with the service that we deliver, from where it starts to where the customer actually leaves. Right. There is an example. I'm not exactly sure. It's not from McDonald's. Don't worry. It's an example just to indicate to you what needs to be in a service blueprint. What needs to be in a service blueprint is quite evident from that particular image on the screen, and that is to make sure that your support services, your backstage actions, your front stage actions, the customer's journey, the time, those are all elements that I'm trying to find where exactly in your manual it is that I think it's page 133. In page 133, around about sort of the second paragraph on page 133. The components of the service blueprint include graphical representations of your customers' actions, the actions of the front office, the back office, as well as the contact employees and the support processes. Those are all you'll find as headings on the left-hand side of that particular image. They are standard, and they always need to be in a services blueprint. Let's just take the customer before we take a break, because we have less than a minute to go before we are timed out. The customer's journey, we'll see that the customer goes to the website first, and then he goes to the store, he goes through all the different appliances, discusses the features, maybe with a consultant there, makes a purchase, for instance. That is if you can actually buy it. If this is not for an online business, this would not be a takealot.com or Amazon. This is where you actually, your first step is maybe, this could be buying a vehicle, for instance. That's, you are going to be required as part of self-assessment to do something like this, but we're not going to go into greater detail at this point. Okay, we're going to do a lot of case studies next week. I'm going to end the session now, and we join after the very short break. Okay, keep well. I'll see you just now.